So we left off in Act 1, Scene 2, and the clown Pompey was about to enter here, and what we've already seen, we've already seen, is that the first measure of Angelo's regime is to order that all brothels be demolished. Now, whether they actually are all demolished is a different question of whether they were ordered to be, but that's his order. The order goes out that as far as tolerance of something illegal goes, that he's going to go from the one extreme to the other. So they just demolished all the brothels and all the iniquity with them, take care of it with radical vigor. And Pompey enters the scene, and the second effect, by the way, is to imprison Claudio. And that I'm going to get to that because Claudio is one of the main figures in the play. And he will enter this scene as well in Act 1, Scene 2, which is why I need to deal with Act 1, Scene 2, not just let it pass. And he will explain to us the nature of his crime. But Pompey enters 110. Why, how now, Claudio? Oh, no, we haven't got to that. Pompey. How now? What's the news with you, 85? Says Mistress Overdone. Pompey, yonder man is carried to prison. Well, what has he done? A woman. But what's his offense? Groping for trouts in a peculiar river. What? Is there a maid with child by him? No, but there's a woman with maid by him. You have not heard of the proclamation, have you? What proclamation, man? All houses in the suburbs of Vienna must be plucked down. And what shall become of those in the city? They shall stand for seed. They had gone down too, but that a wise burgher put in for them, a wise citizen. But shall all our houses of resort in the suburbs be pulled down to the ground, mistress? Why, here is a change indeed in the commonwealth. What shall become of me? Come, fear not you. Good counselors lack no clients. Though you change your place, you need not change your trade. I'll be your tapster still. Courage! There will be pity taken on you. You that have worn your eyes almost out in the service, you will be considered. What's to do here, Thomas Tapster? Let's withdraw. So immediately puts her to good service. Anyway, here comes Signor Claudio, led by the provost to prison, and there's Madame Juliet. Out he goes. Now, the provost, Claudio, Juliet, officers. Provost in the Christian university context is the chief academic office. Here it's an administrator of some sort. It's not the same thing entirely. Claudio, fellow, why dost thou show me thus to the world? Bear me to prison where I am committed. I do it not in evil disposition, but from Lord Angelo by special charge. Thus can the demigod authority make us pay down for our offense by weight the words of heaven. On whom it will, or on whom it will not, so. Yet still 'tis just. Enter Lucio and two gentlemen. Why, how now, Claudio? Whence comes this restraint? From too much liberty, my Lucio, liberty. As surfeit is the father of much fast, so every scope by the immoderate use turns to restraint. Our natures do pursue, like rats that raven down their proper bane, a thirsty evil, and when we drink, we die. If I could speak so wisely under an arrest, I would send for certain of my creditors. And yet, to say the truth, I had as lief have the foppery of freedom as the mortality of imprisonment. What's thy offense, Claudio? What but to speak of would offend again? So he feels convicted. He feels guilty. This is a man of conscience, a man who feels a sense of guilt in spite of the overreaching of the law on this. So it says something is immediately about the character of Claudio. He's not crying out injustice. He believes that he's been justly condemned for a transgression of the law. What? Is it murder? No. Lechery? Call it so. Away, sir, you must go. One word, good friend. Lucio, a word with you. 100, if they'll do you any good. Is lechery so looked after? Thus stands it with me. Upon a true contract, I got possession of Julietta's bed. So he's signed the papers. They are officially married. Upon a true contract. You know the lady, she is fast my wife. Save that we do the denunciation lack of outward order. They haven't gone to into the church to be declared man and wife, but they've signed the papers. And these days, you sign, if you get married, it's the actual marriage is a legal act that you have to commit at City Hall. The pastor, the priest can come in, he declares a man and wife. That has not yet happened. And in Vienna, that has to happen for that to be. So they have officially they've signed, they are man and wife, but they haven't yet got to the church service yet. They're waiting. Maybe the church is too busy, whatever. Who knows? But that's where they're at right now. They lack the denunciation of outward order. This we came not to, only for propagation of a dower remaining in the coffer of her friends. So they'd not yet paid the dowry. So we're waiting around, and then we'll go and all that will be done. So it's just a technicality, if you will. From whom we thought it meet to hide our love till time had made them for us. But it chances the stealth of our most mutual entertainment with character too gross is writ on Juliet. In other words, her womb is swelling. The character is too evident, writ on her. Now everybody sees. With child, perhaps? Unhappily, even so. And the new deputy now for the Duke, whether it be the fault and glimpse of newness, or whether that the body public be a horse whereon the governor doth ride, who, newly in the seat, that it may know he can command, lets it straight feel the spur, whether the tyranny be in his place, or in his eminence that fills it up, I stagger in. But this new governor awakes me all the enrolled penalties which have, like unscoured armor, hung by the wall so long that 19 zodiacs have gone round and none of them been worn. And for a name now puts the drowsy and neglected act freshly on me. 'Tis surely for a name. So he has brought into force the laws that are on the books, just like an armor suit that is used by knights in battle, which had stayed on the wall and is covered by rust from lack of use, but now he puts it on, and he does it. What's the purpose? Does he really care about the law, or does he do it to make a show of things? The accusation is here, he does it surely for show. He's making a display, showing that he's stern. It's for a name. I warrant it is. And thy head stands so tickle on thy shoulders that a milkmaid, if she be in love, may sigh it off. Send after the Duke and appeal to him. I have done so, but he's not to be found. I prithee, Lucio, do me this kind service. This day my sister should the cloister enter, and there receive her approbation. Acquaint her with the danger of my state. Implore her in my voice that she make friends to the strict deputy. Bid herself assay him. I have great hope in that, for in her youth there is a prone and speechless dialect such as move men. Pardon me. Besides, she hath prosperous art when she will play with reason and discourse, and well she can persuade. I pray she may, said Lucio, as well for the encouragement of the like, which else would stand under grievous imposition. As for the enjoying of thy life, who I would be sorry should be thus foolishly lost at a game of tic-tac. I'll to her, tic-tac. All sorts of Shakespearean puns for sex. Tic-tac, a game of tic-tac. I thank you, good friend Lucio. Within 2 hours, come, officer, away. Okay, so out they go. And then we retreat to the scene of the Duke and the Friar Thomas that we already looked at, in which he talked about the state of the law and the fact that he had let it fall into disrepair effectively. The laws had not been enforced. And the friar had expressed his surprise that he'd let Angelo do this. And the question that he asks is, why didn't you do it? And this is the answer that we have behind us here. So last time, where we left off, the Duke said that liberty plucks justice by the nose, the baby beats the nurse, and quite athwart goes all decorum. So everything is gone, the degree, because of his negligence. And then the friar says, it rested in your grace to unloose this tied up justice when you pleased, and it in you more dreadful would have seemed than in Lord Angelo. I do fear, too dreadful, sith 'twas my fault to give the people scope. 'Twould be my tyranny to strike and gall them for what I bid them do. For we bid this be done when evil deeds have their permissive pass, and not the punishment. So silence gives consent. Maxim of the law, mentioned by Sir Thomas More in that famous work, A Man for All Seasons by Robert Bolt. The maxim of the law, silence gives consent. So if you notice an unjust act and you don't seek to stop it, let alone convict it for injustice, then you're effectively consenting to it. So you become unjust in the process. There's the problem. Therefore, indeed, my father, I have on Angelo imposed the office, who may, in the ambush of my name, strike home. And yet my nature never in the fight I do in slander. And to behold his sway, I will, as 'twere a brother of your order, visit both prince and people. Therefore, I prithee supply me with the habit, and instruct me how I may formally in person bear like a true friar. More reasons for this action at our more leisure shall I render you. Only this one, Lord Angelo is precise, stands at a guard with envy, scarce confesses that his blood flows, or that his appetite is more to bread than stone. Hence shall we see, if power change purpose, what our seemers be. So again, goes back to the second thing that I said that the Duke was going to try and do. He was going to rectify the injustice, but also he's going to test the characters, their appearance, whether they are as they seem to be, whether they are as just and holy and righteous as they appear to be. And in the process is going to not only test them and reveal that there's a problem in each of them, but also then point them. So he's acting like the law himself, in other words. He's going to be the personification of the law in that sense. He's going to do something that the law itself has not yet done. So there's all sorts of levels on which you can read the play if you consider the manifold ways in which the law is to be understood here. Yes, question before I skip on.
Yeah, we also see in individual characters, it seems like Shakespeare's tried to include a pretty comprehensive range in terms of like the character. So there's the characters that are like very true to their morals, but then like
he shows a wide variety. Yeah.
Yeah, and then there's the one who seems great and is actually terrible. The one who seems
terrible and is better than that. And then there's in-between characters. Yeah. I always present it as foils. That's what we talk about in theater, that they're sort of as if they were one was the opposite of the other, but you find variations in between as well. And that's the themes of the play and the plot, which is there to illustrate the themes, are the same. And some characters are the striking opposites there, and they're the ones that it's clearly, but there are gradations between those, and those depend to some degree on the stations of the characters as well and how it gets implemented. In the same way that, remember, if you did the Odyssey in first year English, you see the noble characters like Odysseus and Penelope and Telemachus. So there we have the aristocrats demonstrating wisdom and justice, but then you also find figures lower down the socioeconomic ladder like Eumaeus the swineherd as a mirror of Odysseus, basically. He's a wise character and just, even though he's in a position of the utmost social degradation, really. He's a pig farmer. He was once the son of a prince, a king, and now he's been reduced to this, but he still acts justly. But then you also find there are aristocrats in the same play, like the suitors, that are behaving in an abominable manner. So it's not about the station in which you find yourself, it's the way you act. Shakespeare will do the exact same thing. Actually, all the great moral writers of the English tradition and the whole Western tradition do the same thing. You find the same thing in Charles Dickens. You find the same thing in Jane Austen. It's all over the place. So there's a moral sense tradition here in which good writers are able to allow characters to illustrate the themes of the play, and they do it in a very believable fashion as well. And that's one of the great things about Shakespeare, is that he seems to present every character plausibly, even if they're small parts. The ability to introduce their character quickly and at the same time persuasively is not easy. Not easy. I mean, it's easy sometimes too. If you want to give a character a name like Mistress Overdone, then you already know, like the name herself, that gives it away who she is in some ways. And yet she can have subtlety about her as well, unexpected. And it just depends on a few lines. And it also depends on the actor. How does the actor? So the actor really has to read the part in the context of the play. What are the themes? What's the plot? What are the main? And how am I, as this character, going to bring that out in relation to the other characters on the stage? Not easy being an actor, but you have to really be a thinker, because you can reveal that in 100 different ways. Obviously through your speech, the most important bit, but how you act, you flutter your eyes, you look on the stage, all sorts of things like that. Anyway, and it's different again on screen. You see close up, you see like just little ticks of the face, like an eyebrow twitching or something. So that's a different form of acting than you'll get on stage, where people see, the broader gestures or background in a way. Close-ups are a bit different. If you think about the Greek theater, they wore masks. So it's much more dependent on voice, way more dependent on voice. And that in itself is an interesting topic, whether it's superior or inferior for that. Anyway, Act 1, Scene 4. We have yet to be introduced to the important character of Isabella, one of the key figures in the whole play, one of Shakespeare's great female characters. And she is, to some degree, a foil for Angelo. Angelo, the character of virtue. Isabella, likewise, a figure of purity and virtue. And we've just heard, going into the nunnery, according to her brother, and to the cloister, Act 1, Scene 2, line 177, and there receive her approbation. She'll be tried. You go through a period as a novice for 7 years. You're being tested whether you want to stick there, because after that, now you're considered done. You have to stay. But there's a period where you are being a trainee nun, as it were. That's where she's going. Although it says approbation, so I'm not quite sure. Maybe that's the full stage. At any rate, never mind. Act 1, Scene 4. Enter Isabel and Francisca, a nun. And have you nuns no farther privileges? It looks to me, though, like she's not being, like she's just a novice, because she is surprised at the conditions. Doesn't know what is to be expected of a nun. And have you nuns no farther privileges, says Isabel. Francisca, are not these large enough? Yes, truly, I speak not as desiring more, but rather wishing a more strict restraint upon the sisterhood, the votaress of St. Clair. So, I don't want more liberty, I want less. So in that sense, she's again like Angelo. She wants restraint. Why does she want the restraint? We don't know. We don't know is the answer. But it's already a strange response for a young woman. Why do you want stricter regulation? Is it because she has trouble restraining herself? That issue of desire and restraint is there throughout the play. And as an actor, you have scope to interpret how you're going to portray the character in that situation. but it's already a surprising response, because you immediately go into the cloister and they're about to restrain your liberties, and she's objecting to that, and you think that she's objecting because it's too much restraint. You're saying, no, is there not more restraint? That's not enough. Oh, wow, okay. Not what we expected at all. But in that sense, like Angelo, very much restrictive in his view of how to conduct himself. Okay, so then Lucio, who's walked in somehow, ho, peace be in this place. Who's that which calls? Francisca, it is a man's voice. Gentle Isabella, turn you the key and know his business of him. You may, I may not. You are yet unsworn. When you have vowed, you must not speak with men, but in the presence of the prioress. Then if you speak, you must not show your face, or if you show your face, you must not speak. He calls again, I pray you, answer him. And then out she goes. Isabella, peace and prosperity. Who is it that calls? Lucio comes in. Hail, virgin, if you be. As those cheek roses proclaim, you are no less. So immediately, cheek roses, she blushes immediately at the insinuation that she might not be. She's immediately, right? And can you so stead me? So what you have here is a man who's pretty salty, and a woman who is got a strong conscience and awareness, got a passionate girl, lots of character, but also really virtuous in her intentions, in conflict. So there's conflict in the scene if you're portraying this here. Can you so stead me as bring me to the sight of Isabella, a novice of this place, and the fair sister to her unhappy brother Claudio? Why her unhappy brother? Let me ask. Or rather, for I now must make you know I am that Isabella and his sister. Gentle and fair, your brother kindly greets you. Not to be weary with you, he's in prison. Woe me, for what? For that which, if myself might be his judge, he should receive his punishment in thanks. He hath got his friend with child. Sir, make me not your story. Don't jest with me. 'Tis true. I would not, though 'tis my familiar sin with maids to seem like the lapwing and to jest, tongue far from heart, play with all virgins so. I hold you as a thing enskied and sainted by your announcement and immortal spirit. I think he's mocking her here even in this. And to be talked with in sincerity as with a saint. You do blaspheme the good in mocking me. Do not believe it. Fewness and truth, 'tis thus. Your brother and his lover have embraced. As those that feed grow full, as blossoming time that from the seedness the bare fallow brings to teeming foison, even so her plenteous womb expresseth his full tilth and husbandry. Someone with child by him, my cousin Juliet. Is she your cousin? Adoptedly. As schoolmaids change their names by vain though apt affection. She it is. Oh, let him marry her. This is the point. The Duke is very strangely gone from hence. Bore many gentlemen, myself being one, in hand and hope of action. But we do learn by those that know the very nerves of state, his givings out were of infinite distance from his true meant design. Upon his place, and with full line of his authority, governs Lord Angelo, a man whose blood is very snow broth, one who never feels the wanton stings and motions of the sense, but doth rebate and blunt his natural edge with profits of the mind, study, and fast. He, to give fear to use and liberty, which have for long run by the hideous law, as mice by lions, hath picked out an act, under whose heavy sense your brother's life falls into forfeit. He arrests him on it, and follows close the rigor of the statute, to make him an example. All hope is gone, unless you have the grace by your fair prayer to soften Angelo. And that's my pith of business. twixt you and your poor brother? Doth he so seek his life? Has censured him already, and as I hear, the provost hath a warrant for his execution. Alas, what poor abilities in me to do him good? Assay the power you have. My power, alas, I doubt. Our doubts are traitors, and makes us lose the good we oft might win by fearing to attempt. Go to Lord Angelo, and let him learn to know, when maidens sue, men give like gods. But when they weep and kneel, all their petitions are as freely theirs as they themselves would owe them. I'll see what I can do. But speedily I will about it straight, no longer staying, but to give the mother notice of my affair. I humbly thank you. Commend me to my brother. Soon at night I'll send him certain word of my success. I'll take leave of you. Good sir, adieu. And now they go out separately. Okay, so the stage is set. All of the important actors have been introduced to us, and we see that the nature of the problem. The city of Vienna has gone to seed. The Duke has put a substitute in his place, Angelo, and Angelo immediately seeks to crack down on the licentiousness of the city of Vienna and arrests young Claudio for getting this woman, Giulietta, pregnant, even though they're effectively married. And they're just waiting a few technicalities and so forth. Doesn't matter. They've not yet fulfilled the whole, all of righteousness here. So he's going to condemn him, and he's going to bring into law, as is his power, as the law clearly states, full judgment on his head. He's not wrong, but he is very, very harsh. Now, his sister, Isabella, about to go into the cloister, is a similar character to Angelo. Both young, both idealistic, both admirable characters, and we're going to see what comes of that. But we already see that, we already know that the Duke is in the background, just like the audience watching the play. The Duke is watching the play, so he's going to be the playwright. He will be an actor in the play, and he'll also be an audience. At the moment, he's the audience, watching on as we are waiting to see what happens, expecting certain things, but unaware, because who knows what the actions will be. And all of this makes Shakespeare's audience think about the roles of themselves as actors, as playwrights, insofar as you can direct other people's actions in life and so forth, and also as spectators, but also as being part of a spectacle that God is overseeing and directing. All of these things are brought into view here. So you're thinking of yourself in multiple roles, even as you watch others execute multiple roles in front of you, because all the world's a stage, and the men and women in it merely players. Right? The motto on Shakespeare's Globe Theatre. Act 2, Scene 1. Enter Angelo, Aeschylus, and servants. Remember Aeschylus, who's the wise advisor but didn't know his place in the court. What's he going to do here? Well, the one thing he's going to do, irrespective of what Angelo decides for him, is he's going to provide the words of wisdom in the play. Doesn't mean that they're going to be heeded, but he's going to be there without any power. He's a bit like the Duke himself, in the sense that he's wise but powerless, but he's still in the play here. Yes? Sure. Yeah, that's correct. He has the voice, but without any other power here. Yes. So Angelo, we must not make a scarecrow of the law, setting it up to fear the birds of prey, and let it keep one shape till custom make it their perch and not their terror. So obviously, Aeschylus, we become into the middle of a conversation. Aeschylus is probably protesting that this is far too harsh in this instance on Claudio. Claudio is a good citizen. He doesn't regularly frequent the brothels around the city. He's a nobleman. He's impregnated his wife. He's married her, has every intent to do so. He hasn't left her behind or anything like that. This is a terrible man to make an example of. The response of Angelo is, we have to show that we mean business. Aeschylus, aye, but yet let us be keen, and rather cut a little than fall and bruise to death. Alas, this gentleman, whom I would save, had a most noble father. Let but your honor know, whom I believe to be most straight in virtue, that in the working of your own affections, had time cohered with place, or place with wishing, or that the resolute acting of your blood could have attained to the effect of your own purpose, whether you had not some time in your life erred in this point, which now you censure him, and pulled the law upon you. Can you imagine having done the same thing? This is a virtuous man, just like you are. He was put in the particular situation. He's made his not yet acknowledged, but effectively his fiance and soon-to-be wife made her pregnant, and you're accusing him of something. Would you not have done the same thing in the particular circumstance? It's not possible for you, and you're going to condemn him to death. Like, Angelo, 'tis one thing to be tempted, Aeschylus, another thing to fall. I not deny the jury, passing on the prisoner's life, may in the sworn 12 have a thief or two, guiltier than him they try. What's open made to justice, that justice seizes. What knows the laws that thieves do pass on thieves? 'Tis very pregnant. The jewel that we find, we stoop and take it, because we see it. But what we do not see, we tread upon and never think of it. You may not so extenuate his offense, for I have had such faults, but rather tell me, when I, that censure him, do so offend, let mine own judgment pattern out my death, and nothing come impartial. Sir, he must die. So don't tell me about possibilities here. Don't give me hypothetical situations. When I get caught for doing what he's just done, then you can put me to death. This is what he says. What we don't know at this point, which we will know later in the play, is he's done exactly this in the past. We don't know that. And Shakespeare's audience doesn't know it. So this is one of the things that's interesting about the way this play is enacted, that you would find is very different from Oedipus, the tragedy Oedipus the King, because there the story of Oedipus and what he had done is famous to the audience. They already know that he is the one who commits adultery with his mother and murders his father. It's a famous Athenian story, even told in Homer. There's vestiges of it there. It's a famous episode, all the aspects of it. This, on the other hand, is not known. So he's speaking without a true assessment of his own human nature. He's to some degree oblivious to quite how bad a sinner he is. He's a righteous man in his own eyes, or he's trying to be. And that means that if he's being honest, he's having to conceal a great deal of his wickedness. And he has, in fact, concealed a great deal of his wickedness to himself and to everyone else, but that's going to come out as well. Anyway, I've already given it away if you hadn't read it there. But he says, when it comes to that, I will also deserve execution if and when the time comes that I be accused of the very same thing. That is about to happen later in the play, by the way. He's going to stand before the Duke, and we'll see what he does. Enter the provost. Be it at your wisdom will, says Aeschylus. Angelo, where is the provost? Here, if it like your honor, see that Claudio be executed by 9 tomorrow morning. Bring him his confessor. Let him be prepared, for that's the utmost of his pilgrimage. Prepared to meet his maker. Make him confess, repent, and be ready before God. On earth, he's going to be executed for what he does, but if he repents of it, he will be in heaven with Christ. But we will make sure that an example is made of him here. Provost leaves, and Aeschylus. Well, heaven forgive him, and forgive us all. Some rise by sin, and some by virtue fall. Some run from breaks of ice and answer none, and some condemned for a fault alone. Now enter again the subplot, all these weird and wonderful characters. elbow, froth, clown, Pompey, and officers. Just like in the Midsummer Night's Dream. Elbow, the constable. Come, bring them away. If these be good people in a commonweal that do nothing but use their abuses in common houses, I know no law. Bring them away. How now, sir, says Angelo, what's your name, and what's the matter? If it please your honor, I am the poor duke's constable, and my name is Elbow. I do lean upon justice, sir, and do bring in here before your good honor 2 notorious benefactors. Benefactors? Well, what benefactors are they? Are they not malefactors? Elbow doesn't use words too good. He meant malefactors. If it please your honor, I know not well what they are, but precise villains they are, that I am sure of, and void of all profanation in the world that good Christians ought to have. This comes off well. Here's a wise officer. Go to, what quality are they of? Elbow is your name? Why dost thou not speak, Elbow? He cannot, sir. He's out at elbow. He's drinking, bending his elbow. Elbow's up, but not in the carny sense. He's got his elbow up because he's chugging down a beer. What are you, sir? He, sir, a tapster, sir, parcel bawd, one that serves a bad woman, whose house, sir, was, as they say, plucked down in the suburbs, and now she professes a hothouse, which, I think, is a very ill house too. How know you that? My wife, sir, whom I detest before heaven and your honor. I think he means love. But Elbow gets everything backwards. How? Thy wife? I, sir, whom I thank heaven is an honest woman. Dost thou detest her, therefore? I say, sir, I will detest myself also as well as she, that this house, if it be not a bawd's house, it is a pity of her life, for it is a naughty house. How dost thou know that, constable? Marry, sir, by my wife. He knows because he goes there himself as well, but he's blaming his wife. By my wife, who, if she had been a woman cardinally given, I think he means carnally, cardinally given, might have been accused in fornication, adultery, and all uncleanliness there. By the woman's means? Aye, sir, by Mistress Overdone's means. But as she spit in his face, so she defied him. Sir, if it please your honor, this is not so. Prove it before these varlets here, thou honorable man, prove it. How do you hear how he misplaces? So there's a back and forth, and what we're going to find out of this, Angelo is exposed to a number of men who are clearly fornicators, using the Mistress Overdone's services and her women. They're going there and they're confessing it right in front of him, having said that if he caught it right in front of him, he would execute it immediately, would not allow it to escape. These men are effectively confessing all of this directly in front of him and trying to evade this anyway. Back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. And where does Lord Angelo leave here? Froth, Aeschylus, Pompey, line 237. Or Aeschylus, 236. There's pretty orders beginning, I can tell you. It is but heading and hanging. Pompey, if you head and hang all that offend that way, but for 10 years together, you'll be glad to give out commission for more heads. If this law hold in Vienna 10 year, I'll rent the fairest house in it after 3d a bay. If you live to see this come to pass, say Pompey told you so. In other words, the city will be depopulated. You'll have no one left in the city, and I'll buy up the homes that are left at a knockdown price. So far too severe, and the consequences will be worse for the body politic than the actually iniquity. Aeschylus at the end of this play, end of the scene, Act 2, Scene 1. Lord Angelo is severe, says justice, and Aeschylus, it is but needful. Mercy is not itself, that oft looks so. Pardon is still the nurse of second woe. But yet, poor Claudio, there is no remedy. Come, sir. So, this dialogue between Angelo and Aeschylus, whether it's possible between to distinguish between the law and the person who interprets the law, and Angelo's concept of the law goes back to the fall of man and refuses to judge the bawds that he now sees in front of him right down at the end because they make him sick. Not because they're bad, but because he finds himself in the company of such bad men, degraded, and they make him feel physically sick, so he just withdraws from the scene. Whereas he judges Claudio, who's a man that is, by all other appearances, a very good man, except for the one situation. So there's already a clear lack of equity in the treatment of injustice here on the part of Angelo. So something about his response. So you're going to judge him extremely harshly, even though he has committed only one fault, and it's a very minor one, that whereas these men are terribly wicked individuals in that same area, and you can't bring yourself to judge them. What's lying behind your judgments here? Is there's something that motivates you here that's other than following the law scrupulously, because you're not doing it in this other case. Comment or question?
Yeah, we see so much of that mindset in our current culture.
Oh yeah.
Where any criticism of somebody who lives a life that's generally not given to concern with moral virtue gets elevated when something bad happens to them. Like, say, there's a video of them being arrested or something like that. But somebody who otherwise lives a generally lawful life, if they show one flaw, people are eager to, stone them to death, essentially.
People in our day, I think, misunderstand the teachings of the law and grace. They see it as judgmentalism. So they think that if somebody is not perfect, that they ought to be especially severely dealt with, when that's not what the Christian doctrine is at all. It's that here's the perfect standard of justice. We all fall short of it, and me included, the one who tells you of this. But they see it as a looking down as a moral judgment from someone about looking down on them, and so they're delighted that the person that judges them should fall, and they are really vindictive in the way they implement it. So absolutely, that's here. It's always been here, truthfully. This is not a recent occurrence. Act 2, Scene 2 introduces us to the figure of Lucio, Angelo, and Isabella. And remember, we left off with Isabella, Act 1, Scene 4, being encouraged to go to speak to Angelo and plead on her brother's behalf for his life. And she was reluctant to do so, didn't see how it could be helpful, but is going to do so. Comes forward, Act 2, Scene 2, enter Angelo. I'll just read the whole scene. Servant, he's hearing of a cause. He will come straight. I'll tell him of you. Pray you do. And the servant goes out. I'll know his pleasure. Maybe he will relent. Alas, he hath but as offended in a dream. All sects, all ages smack of this vice, and he to die for it? Enter Angelo. Now, what's the matter, provost? Is it your will Claudio shall die tomorrow? Did not I tell thee yea? Hadst thou not order? Why dost thou ask again? Lest I might not be too rash. Under your good correction, I have seen when after execution judgment hath repented o'er his doom. Go to. Let that be mine. Do you your office, or give up your place, and you shall well be spared. I crave your honour's pardon. What shall be done, sir, with the groaning Juliet? She's very near her hour. Dispose of her to some more fitter place, and that with speed. Servant enters in. Here is the sister of the man condemned, desiring access to you. Hath he a sister? Aye, my good lord, a very virtuous maid, and to be shortly of a sisterhood, if not already. Well, let her be admitted. See you the fornicatress be removed. Let her have needful but not lavish means. There shall be order for it. Enter Lucio and Isabella. Provost, save your honor. Stay a little while. To Isabella. You're welcome. What's your will? I am a woeful suitor to your honor. Please, but your honor, hear me. Angelo and Isabella. Angelo, well, what is your suit? There is a vice that most I do abhor, and most desire should meet the blow of justice, for which I would not plead but that I must, for which I must not plead but that I am, at war twixt will and will not. Well, the matter, I have a brother is condemned to die. I do beseech you let it be his fault and not my brother. Aside. Heaven give thee moving graces, because the provost, of course, wants Claudia to be spared his execution. Condemn the fault and not the actor of it? Why, every fault's condemned ere it be done. Mine were the very cipher of a function, to find the faults whose fine stands in record and let it go by the actor. Oh, just but severe law. I had a brother then. Heaven keep your honor. She's ready to go. She's happy that the response that he gives, he's going to be far more severe than any human ought to be, should be. And she's delighted because that's how she thinks things should be treated. Or she's afraid of herself as much as anything. Just like Angelo is probably afraid of himself. She wants restraint. She wants something outside of herself to restrain her. In this case, the law. And is ready to step out of the scene. Lucio, aside to Isabella. Now, the audience has to see this. And at this point, if you're Angelo acting on the stage, you have to stand there and act as if you don't hear them. It's like they step out of the room. Remember, on the same stage. Not a lot you can do here. In a film version, you could do that quite easily so that you wouldn't see them in the same vicinity. But anyway, give it not over so. To him again, entreat him, kneel down before him. Hang upon his gown. You are too cold. If you should need a pin, you would not with more tame a tongue desire it. To him, I say. Must he needs die? Maiden, no remedy. Yes, I do think that you might pardon him, and neither heaven nor man grieve at the mercy. I will not do it. But can you, if you would? Look, what I will not, that I cannot do. But might you do it, and do the world wrong, if so your heart were touched with that remorse as mine is to him? He's sentenced, 'tis too late. Lucio to Isabel, you are too cold. Too late? Why, no, I that do speak a word may call it again. Well, believe this, no ceremony that to great ones belongs, not the king's crown, nor the deputed sword, the marshal's truncheon, nor the judge's robe, become them with one half so good a grace as mercy does. If he had been as you and you as he, you would have slipped like him. But he, like you, would not have been so stern. Pray you be gone. I would be, to heaven I had your potency, and you were Isabel. Should it then be thus? No, I would tell what 'twere to be a judge, and what a prisoner. And aside to Isabel, Lucio, I touch him. There's the vein. Your brother is a forfeit of the law, and you but waste your words. And then the famous lines. Alas, alas, why all the souls that were forfeit once, and he that might the vantage best have took, found out the remedy. How would you be if he, which is the top of judgment, should but judge you as you are? Oh, think on that, and mercy then will breathe within your lips like man new made. Think on the Lord of glory and the mercy done by Christ. He's thinking about the condescension of Christ in incarnate form and giving up his life for yours. Think upon that, and then you will act differently. Be you content, fair maid. It is the law, not I condemn your brother. Were he my kinsman, brother, or my son, it should be thus with him. He must die tomorrow. Tomorrow. Oh, that's sudden. Spare him, spare him. He's not prepared for death. Even for our kitchens, we kill the fowl of season? Shall we serve heaven with less respect than we do minister to our gross selves? Good, my Lord, bethink you. Who is it that hath died for this offense? There's many have committed it. Aye, well said, says Lucio. Okay. The law hath not been dead, though it hath slept. Though those many had not dared to do that evil, if the first did the edict infringe, had answered for his deed. Now 'tis awake, takes note of what it is done, and like a prophet looks in a glass. Remember what I talked about the first use of the law? It's like a glass, a mirror, to show us, like in a glass, that shows what future evils either now or by remissness new conceived, and so in progress to be hatched and born, are now to have no successive degrees. But here they live to end. Yet show some pity. I show it most of all when I show justice. For then I pity those I do not know, which a dismissed offense would aftergall, and do him right that, answering one foul wrong, lives not to enact another. Be satisfied, your brother dies tomorrow, be content. So you must be the first that gives this sentence, and he that suffers. Oh, it is excellent to have a giant's strength, but it is tyrannous to use it like a giant. That's well said, said Lucio. Could great men thunder, as Jove himself does? Jove would never be quiet, for every pelting petty officer would use his heaven for thunder. Nothing but thunder. Merciful heaven, thou rather with thy sharp and sulphurous bolt splits the unwedgeable and gnarled oak than the soft myrtle. But man, proud man, dressed in a little brief authority, most ignorant of what he's most assured, his glassy essence, like an angry ape, plays such fantastic tricks before high heaven as makes the very angels weep, who with our spleens would all themselves laugh mortal. Oh, to him, wench, he will relent, he's coming, I perceive it. And the provost decide, pray heaven she win him. So they back and forth, and this scene is one in which the speeches from Isabel are fantastic here, talking about the relation between mercy and justice, and measure for measure, the whole title of the play, the theme of the play, trying to push Angelo to relent and repent here. And at the end of this, he dismisses her. But when she leaves, we're left with this speech from Angelo, because he appears to be unmoved. But what is the effect of the speech on him? As I say, all have left the stage, and what we have is a soliloquy. He comes to the front of the stage, stands right in front of the audience. There's nothing between them. And then he acts as if the audience is there. He's thinking aloud. He's revealing his thoughts to us. And what are his thoughts here? From thee, even from thy virtue. What's this? What's this? Is this her fault or mine? The tempter or the tempted? Who sins most? Huh? Not she, nor doth she tempt. But it is I that lying by the violet in the sun. The violet is a symptom of a desire, a symbol of desire. Like the violet in the sun, do as the carrion does, not as the flower, corrupt with virtuous season. Can it be that modesty may more betray our sense than woman's lightness? Having waste ground enough, shall we desire to raise the sanctuary and pinch our evils there? Oh, fie, fie, fie. What dost thou? Or what art thou, Angelo? Dost thou desire her foully for those things that make her good? Oh, let her brother live. Thieves for their robbery have authority when judges steal themselves. What? Do I love her, that I desire to hear her speak again and feast upon her eyes? What is it I dream on? O cunning enemy, that to catch a saint with saints dost bait thy hook. Most dangerous is that temptation that doth goad us on to sin in loving virtue. Never could the strumpet, the harlot, the prostitute, with all her double vigor, art, and nature, once stir my temper. But this virtuous maid subdues me quite. Ever till now, when men were fond, I smiled and wondered how. So this little scene has resulted in something that he did not expect. A man who restrained his own sin thought of himself like an angel, even though he's committed and buried sins in his memory that were about to come to light. He still thinks of himself. Now, that was in the past. I'm a different man. Now I'm a much more mature individual. He finds himself in the presence of the virtuous Isabella, lusting after the girl. Not just loving her, he lusts after her, and he's shocked at this. So again, character being revealed, as we saw at the beginning of the play. The Duke was going to test the characters. They themselves are going to be surprised by what they see. And Shakespeare's exploring something of the contradictory impulses of human nature in the scene. So it's a great play, and it's well laid out so that the characters start to reveal themselves. All this with us, the audience, watching the characters on stage, and with the Duke watching in the background as well, seeing what the characters are going to be doing. And then, remember, Angelo is the formal dramaturge figure in the sense that he has power over all action, but behind the scenes, the Duke is still there, and he will be doing things to try and counteract the ill that's done there. So we'll find different characters of action and counteraction. The Duke being in the background is a lot like in our first play, the King of the Fairies, Oberon, and much like God. So there are actors, and then there's the actors behind the actors that are oblivious to the other backstage actors. And in all of these, the playwright Shakespeare is acquainting us with the ways of justice and mercy. Okay, so I'll leave you off with that. We'll pick it up next week, and I'll move fairly quickly to Act 3, but we'll finish the play next week.